Aloha. I have been on break. I've been kicking my feet up. I've been relaxing, maxing, chilling out pool, shooting some b-ball outside of the school. Welcome to episode 1, season 2. This episode is about the 13 months that I spent going to court before I went to prison, and also the worst thing I've ever done. Hey, welcome to season 2. I've been getting some really cool letters, and I really want to encourage anyone, everyone, anyone, all of you. Please write to me. Please write to me and tell me what's inside your heart. Please share your hopes and dreams and fears and your good stuff and your bad stuff and everything in between. I want to shout out a repeat offender, but in like the best way. Waldo, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your heart with me. I cannot even really begin to tell you how much it means to me. I am honored that you're all here and that you're listening and that our room is getting bigger and bigger. And I have to ask you for a favor. Is it too soon? Is it too soon for me to ask for favors? But honestly, I have to ask you for a favor. Can you do me a favor and can you tell someone about the podcast? Like, do you like it? I mean, you're listening, you're here, you're back, you're with me. You waited 2 weeks. Can you do me a favor? Will you fucking tell someone about this podcast? If you already told someone I love you and I appreciate you, can you tell someone else? Can you just tell people about the podcast? Will you just let them know that it's good and it's like worth their time? And will you guys write to me and, tell me things? I love you. I appreciate you and you're really valuable to me. And if I'm valuable to you in any way, shape, or form, the best thing you could do for me is tell someone and leave us a review on iTunes and a comment and subscribe. Do you understand how this works? Just do it, okay? Do it. And then tell your friends. And then while you're at it, check out these other 2 podcasts that are so amazing. They're on my network and they are friends of mine. And it's Kalina Otey at Cringeworthy and Mike O'Keefe at Multiple Idiots. And they're dope. And their podcast is dope. And my podcast is dope. And maybe we could all just hang out and like be dope together. But in order to do that, you gotta tell someone. Tell someone. I love you. I'm gonna tell you some stuff. And I hope we can still be friends after this. And I hope you still want to tell someone about this podcast. I mean, I'm asking you for a favor. So I feel like I owe you something. So check out my next secret. It's coming up. Hang on. You and me, baby. My name is B. Casper, and my entire life has been a lie. That's not even my real name. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you all of my secrets. This isn't the story of how I became an orphan. This isn't the story about how I jumped off a 5-story building and survived. This isn't about how I died and came back funny. This is that time I got arrested. You know that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is really feeling your fear and then doing whatever you're afraid of anyways. So I don't know if I'm really like afraid, but I definitely have to own this particular episode, even though I've sort of been dreading telling you this story. I've never told anyone this ever. Literally no one ever. The first person to hear this story was my producer. And I told it to him last week. And honestly, I've been fucking putting this off. Like we took a little hiatus, but really I've been procrastinating. But the time is now, guys. And I'm going to tell you about the worst thing I've ever done. And it was completely unavoidable in my situation. And I would do it again if I was in the same circumstance. But it was shitty. And I'm shitty. And I feel bad. And I might cry a little bit and freak out a little more because I'm uncomfortable and I feel bad. I do feel bad about what happened. And I'll always feel bad about this. And the real punishment that I faced throughout this experience wasn't going to prison, wasn't being on parole. It wasn't even everything that came after that and all of the consequences in my real life that I have to face. It was this story, this moment, this exchange, this deal, this decision that I made. And I fucking hate myself right now. So if you're new here, it's such a crazy thing to say, but I'm making room for all the new people to come and sit down and say hey. And if you're new here, let me just catch you up. So I just got arrested. I just got raided and charged with 13 felonies and got bailed out of jail for an obscene amount of money. And now I'm on bond. So let's talk about the first 24 hours of being out on bond, right? I went back to my apartment and Hannah drove me home. And every single thing that I owned was gone. The locks had been changed and every item of clothing, every piece of furniture, every book, every spoon, every fork, every photo, every poster on the wall, every bottle of nail polish that I had is gone now. Everything is gone. And the windows are boarded up. And I had a sliding glass door that had a wooden bar in it. And the police had taken every single thing that I owned and seized it under the ruse of evidence. It was my private home, not where I was growing and selling drugs. But all that stuff went along with my car, and everything that was in the trap house went. So all of the cash that I had, which was just about $13,000, a lot of LSD that the cops didn't even know was actually LSD, which was kind of funny. They didn't find the perfume. And my car. Yeah. And my cell phone, which was the most important item that I lost. Even all my baby photos and all my underwear and socks and shoes wasn't as important as losing that phone. Have you ever seen Mission Impossible? It was like that list of all of the undercover agents. That's what was on the phone. And the thing is, the cops didn't know what they had, but they knew that they took everything and they wanted me to play ball. And so a couple of days after I got out of jail on bond, the detectives made arrangements with me to meet them at a police station and conduct another interview. I went there without a lawyer because they told me that I wouldn't be able to, participate in this program, I guess, for people that they arrest and turn if I had a lawyer. That's what they told me on the phone. So my grandparents urged me to go and do whatever I needed to do to make this better. So I went, not because my grandparents urged me to go, but because I needed that phone. I don't know exactly if they could have figured out what was going on, but I needed to know what they knew, and I needed to know how I could get that phone back because that phone had everything important on it that wasn't just my life, that was the lives of 7 other people that meant the world to me. So I went to the police station and I sat down with these detectives and I talked with them for about 3 hours. They would do this little routine where they would tell me I was free to go, tell me that I didn't have any obligation to participate. They'd get up and they'd leave for 20 or 30 minutes. And then eventually they came back and brought me a piece of paper saying that if I signed it, I was agreeing to cooperate with them in their like undercover task force, and that nothing that they said meant that I would get a lessening of my sentence at all. So that's really weird, isn't it? They give you a piece of paper that you have to sign, and they're telling you that they're going to make things easier or better for you, or they're telling you they're going to make some kind of deal with you, but you're signing a piece of paper first saying that they don't owe you shit. Cool, right? Like super trustworthy. Yeah, super easy decision to make. You definitely wanted to dive into that head first, right? So I signed this piece of paper, not in blood, but trust me, it felt like it. And I talked with these cops and tried to figure out what they knew while they simultaneously tried to figure out what I knew. What I gathered is that they didn't know anything and they were a bunch of fucking morons. So first they told me that, that they were sorry that I got caught up in all of this, that I seemed like a nice person, that this wasn't about me, that, they were trying to make the world a better place by taking drug dealers off the streets. And what they were looking for was cocaine, methamphetamines, heroin, and any kind of harder drug. So they didn't even mention any of the drugs that I actually dealt that were the most illegal. And they also didn't know that they had found a ton of LSD in my trap house. They didn't know. So we weren't on the same page, and they didn't understand who I was or where I was coming from. But I knew that I still had a lot to lose, and it wasn't just me that had a lot to lose. I knew that there were other people that had possibly even more than me, because they had real lives and real futures and real families, and they were my real friends. I mean, these were people that I sold drugs with, but they were my family. They were my friends. They were everything to me, and they had lives that were bigger than mine. And Sometimes there's a gray area, and sometimes moral relativity is a thing, and sometimes things are fucking subjective, and you're in a situation where you're backed against a wall, and it's a rock or a hard place. So I went to the hard place. I knew what the cops wanted, and I knew what I wanted, and I told them that they could keep the money, and they could keep the car, and they could keep all of the stuff. And the only thing that I wanted was my phone. And if they gave me my phone back, I would give them someone's name and number and instructions on how to contact them. Yeah. So I did that. I sold someone out, similar to the way that I was sold out. And I get it. I mean, sometimes people ask me, like, do I hate that girl, that fucking stripper? And like, yes, I do. But like, I'm not better than her. I'm not better than anyone. Literally, I suck. And you know what? Half of the people who I like did this for don't even fucking speak to me anymore because of what happened, because they don't even know that this happened, that I did this thing. So we made arrangements to meet another day because the phone was in like an evidence locker, and they had to like apply for it to get released, and write the terms of what our deal was on a piece of paper. So I went back to the police station about a week later, and they gave me the phone, and I plugged it in, and I turned it on, and I typed in my password, and I opened the phone, and I gave them the name, the phone number, and the address of someone that I knew who sold heroin. And I'm just going to call him the fall guy because I can't say his name. And I'm sorry. I mean, like, if there is any point to this whole episode, it's really just me trying to apologize and explain what happened, because this guy doesn't even know that I had anything to do with this. I think. I don't know. It's not like I even know where he is or what he's doing, if he's alive or dead or what. But here's what it is. So I had a friend who introduced me to this other guy who sold drugs. He sold weed sometimes, but he mostly did and sold heroin. I was in a dry spot sometimes, between harvests and like pickups. You have customers that you need to, supply to, and you don't have any supply. So sometimes, a lot of times, randomly, I would just have to pick up from other dealers so that I could keep my customer base going. And so they wouldn't go to someone else if I didn't have what they needed when they needed it. That's just basic economic supply and demand. You need to have a supply so you can meet your demand. So sometimes I would meet random other drug dealers that I would only see maybe once or twice ever. And I'd pick out an ounce or two or a quarter pound or something small for them. And I did that with this guy, this fall guy, once. I picked up an ounce from him of mids. And I don't know, he had a daughter. He has a daughter. He has a daughter. And he had a heroin problem because he sold heroin. And he did heroin. So I gave the cops his name and his number and his address. And I told them how to text him so that he would respond. And he did. And he got arrested. And he went to jail for 3 years. And I got my phone back. And they never found out about the other stuff. And that all happened the first week that I got out on bail. After that, I would go to court for the next 12, 13 months to fight this case and then eventually get sentenced to prison. So it's not like this helped me. It didn't help me at all in my case. It didn't make anything easier or better. In fact, if anything, it made it kind of worse because I played ball only to the extent where it benefited me. So I came off like a fucking snot. And I was because I didn't necessarily think or believe or know that I was going to prison. I mean, maybe delusionally optimistic, thinking that, I'm a girl and I'm smart and I have a job and I'm in school and it's just pot, right? It's right. Right. Well, that's not how it went. But I pretty much sold my soul to the devil before I know I said hail Satan, but honestly, sometimes there's shit that you do in life that you can never erase from your soul conscience. That's the worst thing I've ever done to anyone, ever, is that. And who knows if the cops would have even figured it out, but if they had gotten in my phone, if they had figured it out, if all of the dots connected and they knew what we were really doing, if they found out what I was actually involved in, if they could pin any of these Class X felonies on the most highly illegal activity you could possibly imagine, then that was 7, 8 life sentences that they had in that phone. So, hey, I'm so fucking sorry I traded 3 years of your life for 7 life sentences, but I would do it again. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sometimes you do bad things because you have to. And what's fucked up is that I essentially put that little girl in the same situation that I was put in as a child. And if you think that escapes me, you're wrong, because I thought about it every minute of every day since it happened. So I smoke a lot of weed and I don't forget, but I do have to numb myself to this a little bit. I have a box of tissues in front of me and I really thought I was going to sit here and bawl because I'm cried about this experience so many times. But I think that right now I'm just sort of numb. I feel numb to it. I feel dead inside sometimes. You have to lose your freedom a bunch of times before you actually believe that it's gone. And that was the first time where I really lost my freedom of choice, my freedom of self to just be who I was. I thought that my childhood was so bad that nothing would ever get worse in my life, really. I didn't know how naive and sheltered and stupid and arrogant and fucking lame I was. I didn't know. I didn't even know who I was. I thought that I had faced adversity before, and I had no fucking idea what was coming next. And that was just the first time. Now it's time to face the music. And here's what the music sounds like. Everything I own is gone. My family is so beyond disappointed in me and angry, and really there's another level of anger to it, livid. How fucking dare I? It's pretty much the general vibe. All of my friends are gone. You really find out who your true friends are when everything falls apart. So now I don't have anything. Now I don't have a drug empire. Now I don't have any money. Now I don't have a car. Now I don't have a place to live. Now I don't have any fucking underwear. Okay? Literally, I have nothing. Nothing. I have one thing though. I have a heart and a soul and a body and the people who loved me and stuck by me through this, which is a fucking short list. I was on top. I was popular. I was cool. I was powerful. I was arrogant. I was greedy. And now I'm nothing. And I had two friends, really, and my cousin. Two friends and my cousin who would still even speak to me. And my one friend, Jessie, I used to sell weed to her. And then my whole entire life fell apart. And everyone stopped talking to me because I was dangerous. Because no one knew if I was working with the cops or not. And because no one knew what the fuck was going on. And because my cell phone was gone for a while. And then I had it back. And then I was nowhere to be seen, no one can fucking get a hold of me to buy drugs anymore because now I'm a fucking pariah. And I don't have any drugs, P.S. And my friend Jessie let me sleep on her floor, fed me almost every day, and just held me while I cried and couldn't have been any more supportive or loving or kind or generous, or I don't even know what you would fucking call that, a literal human angel. When you meet someone and they're at their lowest and you decide that you're going to take their problems on as your own and let them rest for a moment, while the world is like beating the shit out of them. Like, what the fuck? Humans are angels. Jessie is a fucking angel. She is a real life angel. She's still my goddamn friend. She's still doing me favors all the time. It's so funny. I was talking to her recently because she listens to the podcast and she's been sending me all these like angry texts of being like, oh, you're going to mention Hannah? Oh, you're going to mention Jordy? Oh, Sydney? What? I'm not one of your best friends? It's so funny. And I'm just like, dude, you don't even know. Like, we just haven't got there yet. Because Jessie and I, like, we were friends. I sold her weed. Like, I gave her books. Like, I wrote her letters. But I mean, we were not the kind of friends that we became when everything fucking fell apart. And she was the only person, other than Hannah, of course, who was really, really there for me. Like, really there for me. Like, the way that you are there for a child when, like, you are their mother. You know what I mean? Jessie's not my mother. She's fucking younger than me. She's younger than me. And she has mothered me for the last, like, God, since it fucking happened. Since it fucking happened. And since she fucking did me a favor last week. She's the best person who's ever lived. And if you're lucky enough to know her, which I know another listener, actually, this is really funny. Like, she even recruited people that she works with to like listen to the podcast. And then one of her friends who she works with has like contacted me and been like, I love the podcast. And like, he's really nice and cool. And like, you guys will see some of his artwork on my Instagram later. And I'm so excited to share that with you. But it's like, man, it is like the kind of love that is what you really think about when you think about what is love. You know, what is love? What is it? What is unconditional love? It's like loving someone as much as you can, exactly where they're at, because that's what they need in that moment. And I wouldn't be capable of loving anyone unconditionally if I hadn't been shown what that looks like. And Jessie is the person who showed that to me. I love her so much. I love you so much. Thanks for literally everything that you do all of the time. I honestly would not be alive without you. Like 2 years ago. So this is like, my life has been a fucking roller coaster, right? 2 years ago, Jessie and I like were sitting in her car and my shit was in like a trash bag. And I was like sobbing my eyes out about just everything. And now it's 2 years later. And like, all I can fucking do is thank her for like being there for everything and just for like continuing. Because all you can ask someone to do is just like love you through your mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, it's on you to like grow and work to be a better person. But you can't do that if there aren't people around you that are going to love you through your mistakes. So you just heard the biggest mistake I ever made, but it's a mistake that I made on purpose, and it's one I would do again. And I hate myself, but I am so loved that it's like balance. You know what I mean? Like, life is, it's balance. You have to balance out the shitty things that you do with like the love in your heart. And like when other people love you, that like lets you expand. So I want you, whoever you are, to listen to this. And I really hope that I make you feel loved. That if I'm like the worst person ever and I've done all these terrible things and there are people out there that like love me that much, like, damn, of course you're capable and worthy of like the most unconditional and like encompassing love. So moving on, let's talk about court. So I went to court for 13 months and my uncle eventually became my lawyer. But first, I was pretty much like pushed out of the nest, so to speak, because my grandparents were like, yeah, we'll bail you out of jail, but like everything else is on you. I was sleeping on Jessie's floor. I had one change of clothes. I started waiting tables. And I got 2 jobs. I was waiting tables and I was babysitting. And I was going to court once a month. And I had to make money so that I could hire this lawyer. Honestly, I got the reference from someone who I sold drugs to. Like, I should have known better, but this guy like knew that I sold drugs and he was like chill about it. He let me pay him in cash. And I mean, some of that cash was drug money, and it wasn't my drug money, but I had some friends who were, you know, still selling that were kind of like, yeah, like we'll help you throw money at this problem. So some of my other dealer friends like spotted me on this lawyer while I was like working 2 jobs and like putting my life back together, really trying to just like put a roof over my head. I slept on Jesse's floor. I slept on Hannah's floor. I slept on a lot of floors for 13 months. And I went from being this like cushy, privileged, like fucking dumb bitch to sleeping on floors, having one, you know, pair of clothes and just going to work every day. And because I didn't have a car anymore, and because Jesse lived in the suburbs, and because my job was in the city, I would have to like take the train. First, I would have to take like a bus to the train, which took about 45 minutes. Then I would get on the train and take the train all the way down into the city, which would take about an hour and 20. And then I would have to get on an L and take 2 Ls to my job, which took another like 30, 40 minutes. And then I would get off work and it'd be so late. I would have to do that commute backwards, but the next train wasn't until like 5 a.m. So I would have to find something to do between like 3 and 5 a.m. in the city, where mostly I would just like walk around and listen to music and cry and cry. So I got this lawyer, and really what like local prosecution is like is it's all about who you know. It's just a club. It's like a fucking country club, these courthouses, you know? It's all these men in suits and these women in power blazers, and there's definitely like 10 times as many men as there are women. And most of the powerful defense attorneys, the reason why they're powerful is because they spent 20 years, you know, 10, 15, 20 years working on the prosecution side and getting to know all of the judges and the other prosecutors, so that when they then become defense attorneys, where they can make the real money, they can make deals with all the people whose palms they've greased for the last decade. And that's how deals are made. And that's how things work in like the court system. There is no justice. There is no justice. It's who you know and how much money do you have and how can you make something slide? So the first lawyer that I had wasn't familiar with like the court circuit that we were in. And he took the case because he wanted money. He didn't really give a fuck about me. But I made a mistake right away just because I didn't know how to like find a lawyer. You know what I mean? I just hired like the first person that I was recommended. And I didn't know how this stuff really worked, because up until this point, even though I had been in a bunch of trouble, nothing had been this serious and nothing had been like all on me, you know? So like, damn, what a fucking dumb bitch. You know, I look back and I think about that child that was like going through all of this, and I just like, I wish I could like shake her. And also I just feel so bad for her because she has no idea what's coming, because it's going to get so much worse. Oh, fuck, it's going to get so much worse. And this is just the beginning. So I went to court for about 7 months with this lawyer, this one that I hired on my own. And they offered me 4 years. Yeah, 4 years, 4 years. They wouldn't go down. Not a bit. I mean, I did have a record. You know, like I had been arrested. I mean, sort of petty shit, but fuck, my rap sheet was like 18 pages long, no lie. Yeah, I guess they were just like, all right, they called me a habitual criminal, and that I like needed to go to prison. And so I needed to go for a long time. And when my grandparents found out about this, they were understandably like shocked and pissed. And you know how white people are. They just like don't accept things sometimes, you know, the rules don't apply to us. But I mean, they were harder on me on purpose because they told me that's what they were going to do, because I didn't play ball. Yes, I did give them a name, but even in that, I didn't like do what they wanted me to do as far as introducing them to him and setting up the first deal. I did the least amount I could possibly do to make the exchange that I did. So they were still like, fuck you. We're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. The fullest extent. So I was facing 13 felonies and they offered me 4 years. So my grandfather stepped in. Again, you guys, this is white privilege. I know that, okay? I understand that now, but at the time, I was just indignant about all of it. You know, I couldn't believe that they were coming after me this hard for what? Some weed? Some weed? Fuck, you don't even know about the acid you found. Like, you don't even know what I was really doing wrong. So for me, I was like, what the fuck? 4 years? Are you fucking kidding me? That's my 20s. You're just going to take my 20s? What? What? No, please don't do that. Fuck, I was so scared. I like couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I mean, I was on autopilot this whole time. I would just like chain smoke and cry in Jessie's face, and she would hold me while I cried. Man, Jessie, I love you so much. Fuck, you are such a good friend. I wish everyone, you know, as much luck as I have with like the people that surround them, because the people that surround you are everything about your life. So my grandfather stepped in. He called my uncle. My uncle hadn't spoken to me in 10 years. My uncle hadn't spoken to me since I was in high school at my aunt's wedding. So he hadn't spoken to me forever. He was so mad at me. I don't even know why, because I was a fucking shithead, and he felt like I wasn't grateful enough to my grandparents for taking me in and raising me and throwing money at all of my problems. He thought that I was an ungrateful little bitch and that I was not worth the time of day. And so he hadn't spoken to me in 10 years. And he agreed to help me because my grandfather asked him to. So we met, and he apologized to me for not speaking to me in 10 years. And we figured out that we actually have like a ton in common, and we kind of became friends. It was weird and awesome, but it sucked because, you know, like he fucking saved my life. He saved my fucking life. But like, man, it sucked that that's how he had to do it, you know, and it sucked that like that's where he was put. That was the position he was put in. And he doesn't speak to me anymore. You know, I'll get into that later. So my uncle stepped in, and he was a defense attorney. He was a JAG for 20 years. And he worked as a private defense attorney and still took JAG cases on the side. He worked for the Air Force, and that's how he went to law school. And he went to a fantastic law school, and he is incredibly intelligent and gifted at what he does. So we sat down, and he was like, all right, tell me your whole life story. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, everything, fill me in. So I told him everything. And he's like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And he made a plan. We hired a doctor, a psychiatrist, to do a series of tests on me to illustrate why I didn't belong in prison. White privilege. I had to pay for this doctor, and he was very expensive. So again, still sleeping on floors, still working 2 jobs, still commuting like 4 hours a day, and paying for this doctor. And now I have to see this psychiatrist once a week for like 4 hours a week for like 2 months. And he does an IQ test. He does like every possible personality test. And he does all of these like longer than like a regular therapist, like hour sessions. He does these like long 2-hour sessions where I have to go into like everything. You guys like remember season 1, right? Yeah. Like imagine all of the holes in the story, like all of the time between being 5 and being like 13 and going to juvie that time, like all of that info is what that doctor and I discussed in detail. So super fun, to just like dredge up all of your, trauma and damage. So that was great. And I loved every second of it. And eventually what he did with all of that time is he compiled a 20-page long report that had my IQ score and my personality diagnosis, which I have 2 like mental illnesses or whatever you want to call them. I mean, he gave me 2. I'd never been officially diagnosed by anyone before. I mean, maybe you could say I like was depressed, but these were like official now because they were given to me by a doctor and they were on this piece of paper that was going to a judge. So it doesn't really get more official than that. Cool. So I had 2 diagnoses and my IQ test, and then that doctor wrote a really long report saying why I shouldn't go to prison. We paid him to do that. That's like a luxury that I had by being white, somewhat affluent middle class, and having the kind of support that I had where there were people that were going to let me sleep on their floor while I worked these 2 jobs so that I could pay this doctor to write this report, So all of these things had to happen. And then my uncle, knowing the way that things really work and how palms are greased in the country club that he's at of this courthouse that he's in, had this other lawyer who was kind of like a shark as far as defense attorneys go. He had only very recently switched from prosecuting to defense. So he was making a lot of money and he knew everyone. So I had 2 lawyers, one who was my uncle, the other who was this like super powerful, important guy. And I had this 20-page long report. And here's like now 12 months. Now it's a full year later from when I started going to court. And this is it. And they still wouldn't budge on the 4 years. That's what they wanted. And we were just like, anything, please, not 4 years in prison. Like that's ridiculous for some fucking weed. Like that dude that raped that girl at Stanford, was it? Right? Yeah, at Stanford, that guy that raped that girl got like a fraction of the amount of time that I would have been facing for like growing pot, okay? And selling pot to an undercover police officer, someone who I thought was fucking chill, okay? So it's not like I was fucking selling it to a child. It was a grown man. Man. Fuck. Sorry, I'm just like mad about it still, It still hurts. Like all of this, I feel this. Like I am still feeling this because this is not even, my life is better and different. And this happened a long time ago, but like, trust me, this hasn't left me yet. Like this is not over for me. Like I have to still wait 2 years before I can apply for a pardon of my sentence. I still can't get a fucking apartment on my own because I am a criminal and a fucking felon. Right. I'm one of those things, really. Not so much the other. Anyways, my uncle and this other lawyer and the judge and the prosecutor had something that was called a 402 meeting. And that's where they all go in the back and come up with a deal that I have to take no matter what. I mean, it's hopefully going to be less than what they're offering, but it's like, this is the elevator pitch. This is where people like go to bat. This is where, the real duking out of like the fight of what we've been doing for this whole year now comes down to. And I'm not even allowed in this fucking room when it happens. So I'm still hoping that I'm just going to get probation or rehab or, you know what I mean? Like a slap on the wrist, essentially. Like I'm still thinking like, fuck, I'm not going to go to prison. Like, I hope I don't go to prison. I'm like sitting there praying to a God that I don't believe in that I'm not going to go to prison, right? right? I'm like making deals with the devil. Please, 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 not prison. Please, please. And he came back, and I'm definitely going to prison. But we got the sentence reduced like substantially. Went down from 4 years to 18 months. I get my sentence, and there's no going back now. Now it's just like, all right, turn yourself in 6 weeks and serve your time. So now I have 6 weeks to get ready to go to jail for a year. Yeah. So that was fun. That was a weird month. Let me tell you what I did. I met up with my ex-boyfriend, that guy I was telling you about. We had a lot of sex, and we did a lot of drugs, and we had a good time. He didn't really understand or like know what was happening because I'm not one to open up. Is that so weird? I mean, like, yes, I am about certain things in individual settings. I mean, I'm sitting here by myself, essentially. I'm with Erin, who is more of a mother to me than my real mother ever was, you know? So I'm alone. Erin, I feel like I can be alone with you, which I think is like a really, oh man, it's going to make me cry. It's like a really powerful thing. You know, he's like making hand gestures at me. You can't see them, but they mean a lot to me. So I'm alone here. So it's easier for me to like tell you, like whoever you are. I mean, like whoever you are that's listening, like I'm telling you, but I'm really sitting here alone telling no one because Erin is, I mean this in the nicest way. Erin is no one with me. And I didn't tell that guy, you know, I didn't tell anyone. There were like friends that I had that were like from work and from school that didn't even know that I got arrested and didn't even know that any of this shit was happening. And I had a lot of sex and I did a lot of drugs, and then I bought a lot of books. Yeah. So I pretty much knew down to like the day of how long I had to be in there. And I read books about prison. I went online and did research so that I could, I don't know, prepare. Like I did as much as I could to make the experience, I don't know, like palatable, tolerable. My uncle and I like talked a lot about it and getting ready for it. I found out how many books that I could receive while I was in jail every week. And so I bought as many books as I could possibly receive for the entire time that I was there. So I set myself 3 books a week, and I bought individual envelopes and I addressed them, and I wrote myself letters and wrote myself poems and I sent myself like fucking 60 packages right before I left. You can do this thing that like hikers do when they send boxes of food in through hikes. You can like take things to a post office and have them sent like staggered, you know, have everything like addressed and ready to go and put a date on it. And then they'll send it for you on that date. They'll like hold the box and then they'll send it to you. So I had all these packages. They were all addressed and stamped and ready to go. And I took them to the post office the morning before I left. And I was late to court to turn myself in to go to prison because I was sending myself all the books in the world. I sent myself all the books in the world. And then I would get them and I would read them and I would write myself letters back. And I would review the books. And I would just talk to myself about what was happening. And if you guys are interested, I think I'm going to publish a book of all of those letters, but you have to like get at me and let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. Otherwise, it's not happening. So maybe someday. I'm not sure. Anyways, I also took a lot of Xanax. while I was at the courthouse as soon as I got there, because I knew that I was going to be sitting in a holding cell for about 18 hours. And I knew, what my day was going to be like. This was familiar, but this was also really new to me. And as I was going through all of this, all I could really think about was my dad. And I felt close to him. I felt like spiritually, cosmically, like in my heart. I never felt like more of a kinship than I did with him at like that moment while I was waiting for them to call my name so that they could handcuff me and take me in the back, and I really wouldn't see the sunshine again. So I like felt him, and I felt that Xanax. And I got back into the holding cell, and pretty much as soon as I sat down, those benzos kicked in. And let me tell you, science is wonderful. Chemistry is beautiful. Pharmacology is a gift to humans, because I passed out. I passed out on the floor of that jail cell, and I passed out for the entire day. And they didn't, this was at 8 or 9 in the morning. They didn't come to pick us up until about 5 or 6 p.m. So I was completely passed out on the floor of a cold concrete jail cell at a courthouse in the outskirts of Chicago for 10 hours? I took 2 bars. I mean, I knew what was coming. I'm fucking not dumb. I'm stupid sometimes, but I'm not dumb. And then they put us all in the back of utility van. And we were all handcuffed to each other. And there's all the other girls that were being taken in. And then I got taken to Cook County Jail, where I would spend the next 3 months. And that's what's next, you guys. Oh, it gets so much darker. Oh, if you thought that was bad, it gets so much worse. Oh, it's going to fucking suck for like a long time. So just so you know that I'm going to like switch between me telling these like sucky stories, because like when I say it gets worse, like do not underestimate the weight of that sentence. It gets so much worse. Prison sucks. Did anyone know that? Raise your hand if you knew that. I'm raising both my hands. Aaron's raising both his hands. But I really didn't know. I didn't know, man. Oh, I didn't know. But I am here to tell you how bad it sucks. And then every other week, I'm going to talk to someone else about some stories that suck a lot less. And you know what? I'm like open though. Like I eventually want to get some people in here. Someone taught me, please. Someone have it worse. Fuck. Don't make me feel alone, Do you have a friend who got arrested? Do you have a story about someone that you know that got arrested? Hit me up. I want to hear from you. I want to read about you. I want to talk to you. I want to share with you. I want to hug you. And I want to tell you that it's going to be okay. Because I'm sitting here now and I'm happy sometimes. I'm happy sometimes. I am sometimes happy. And that's like really chill. And like I have such cool friends, like really like the coolest, best, most amazing people you could ever hope to be surrounded by. Fucking Peter, Marcy, Brady, Hannah, AJ, Mike, fuck, Skylar, Shira, Nicole. These are like the people that I'm like, oh my God, wow. Jesse, in a whole other league is Jesse. But these people like make my life worth living. So it's good and it's bad. Things are good and things are bad. I'm sad. I feel sad a lot. And I feel good a lot with balance. I hope you stay with me. I hope you want to find out more about all of this. This is important. I think this is important. So I would like you to do me a favor, because I want this to be my job. I want this to be my job. This is my dream job. Like I couldn't get it any better than this. And maybe I don't deserve it. And maybe I do. But if you listening right here, hey, I love you. If you think that I deserve to have this be my job, if you feel like I'm good at this, if you enjoy this, if you think this is cool, if you think this is important, if you share these beliefs with me, do me a favor and tell somebody else about this podcast. And the way that this is really going to work is like, if you genuinely in your heart feel like this is worth somebody else's time, you'll like make a point to tell somebody else that this is worth their time. And then if they give me their time, this can be my job. I just need more people to give me their time. I mean, let's make a deal. You know, I'll do something nice for you if you can do something nice for me. And I don't fucking care what you want. I will literally make anything happen for you if you could just like get somebody else to listen. So believe me, believe in yourself. And, you know, tell people, post about it online, hit me up, find us and help other people find us. Be Casper on Instagram. That time I got arrested on Instagram. Jazz Fuzz Studios. I mean, you fucking know how this shit works. I love you. I love you. I hope you can forgive me for the things that I've done. You know who I'm talking about. Bon voyage.